The dawn of the 19th century saw the United States, still in its infancy, grappling with the realities of a volatile world. Thomas Jefferson, the newly elected third president, envisioned a nation of farmers, living in peace and pursuing prosperity. However, the realities of international politics, particularly the predatory actions of Barbary pirates and the simmering tensions with Great Britain, presented significant challenges to Jefferson's vision. The young nation, eager to establish itself on the world stage, found itself caught in a web of international intrigue and conflict, testing its resolve and shaping its destiny. Jefferson's presidency, which began in 1801, marked a departure from the Federalist policies of his predecessors, George Washington and John Adams. Unlike the Federalists, who favored a strong central government and close ties with Great Britain, Jefferson and his Democratic-Republican Party advocated for limited government, states' rights, and a more agrarian society. This shift in political ideology had profound implications for the nation's foreign policy, particularly its approach to dealing with European powers. The Jeffersonian era, spanning from 1801 to 1825, was a time of immense transformation and upheaval for the United States. It was a period marked by both significant achievements, such as the Louisiana Purchase, and daunting challenges, including the looming threat of war with Great Britain. The nation's mettle was tested on multiple fronts, from the shores of Tripoli to the battlefields of the Northwest Territory, forcing Americans to confront difficult questions about their place in the world and the principles they were willing to fight for. As the United States navigated the treacherous waters of international diplomacy and conflict, it did so with a growing sense of national identity and purpose. The trials and tribulations of the Jeffersonian era, while formidable, ultimately served to strengthen the young republic, laying the groundwork for its emergence as a major power on the world stage. For centuries, the Barbary states of North Africa, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, and Morocco, had terrorized the Mediterranean Sea, preying on merchant ships and demanding tribute from nations seeking safe passage for their vessels. European powers, accustomed to this practice, routinely paid exorbitant sums to secure their shipping lanes. However, the newly independent United States, with its principles of free trade and maritime neutrality, refused to be held hostage by these predatory practices. The Barbary pirates, emboldened by their past successes, viewed the young American Republic as an easy target. They seized American ships and held their crews hostage, demanding hefty ransoms for their release. These acts of piracy not only disrupted American commerce but also represented a direct challenge to the sovereignty of the United States. Refusing to bow to extortion, Jefferson adopted a bolder approach, dispatching the fledgling United States Navy to the Mediterranean. The ensuing First Barbary War, from 1801 to 1805, marked a defining moment in American history. It demonstrated the young nation's resolve to defend its interests and uphold its principles on the world stage. The American naval forces, though small in size, proved to be a formidable adversary. They engaged in daring raids, blockaded enemy ports, and even launched a daring land assault on Tripoli, led by the legendary Lieutenant Presley O'Bannon. The war, while costly and protracted, ultimately culminated in a hard-fought victory for the United States, securing the release of American hostages and significantly reducing the threat of Barbary piracy. While the United States grappled with the challenges posed by Barbary piracy, a far greater threat loomed on the horizon: renewed conflict with Great Britain. The Napoleonic Wars, which had engulfed Europe in a bloody conflict, had a profound impact on the United States, entangling the young nation in a web of diplomatic disputes and maritime confrontations. One of the most contentious issues between the United States and Great Britain was the practice of impressment. The British Royal Navy, facing a shortage of manpower, resorted to forcibly conscripting sailors from American merchant ships, claiming them as British deserters. This practice, often carried out with brutality and disregard for American sovereignty, deeply angered the American public and fueled anti-British sentiment. The Chesapeake Leopard affair of 1807 brought the two nations to the brink of war. A British warship, the HMS Leopard, stopped the American frigate USS Chesapeake off the coast of Virginia, demanding to search for British deserters. When the American captain refused, the Leopard opened fire, killing 3 American sailors and wounding 18 others. The Chesapeake, caught off guard, was forced to surrender. This act of aggression sent shockwaves through the United States. Public outrage over the Chesapeake incident was palpable, with many Americans demanding war against Great Britain. Jefferson, however, ever the pragmatist, sought a diplomatic solution, hoping to avoid a costly conflict that could jeopardize the young nation's survival. As tensions escalated with Great Britain, the United States also faced growing unrest on its western frontier. Native American tribes resisting the relentless westward expansion of American settlers found themselves increasingly caught in the crossfire between the United States and Great Britain. The British, eager to thwart American ambitions and undermine their rivals, provided arms and support to Native American tribes, fueling resistance and exacerbating tensions on the frontier. The vast Northwest Territory, encompassing present-day Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, became a battleground for control and influence. Native American leaders such as Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief, recognized the existential threat posed by American expansion and sought to unite disparate tribes into a powerful confederacy to resist encroachment. Tecumseh's efforts to forge a pan-Indian alliance alarmed American authorities, who viewed such a development as a direct threat to their territorial ambitions. Governor William Henry Harrison of the Indiana Territory, a staunch advocate for westward expansion, clashed repeatedly with Tecumseh and his followers, culminating in the pivotal Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. The escalating violence on the frontier further inflamed tensions between the United States and Great Britain. Many Americans, particularly those in the West and South, blamed British interference for inciting Native American resistance and called for war to assert American dominance and secure the frontier. The War of 1812, when it finally erupted, would be fought on two fronts, against the British on the high seas and against their Native American allies in the vast wilderness of North America. Gap 3S. As the United States grappled with conflicts on its frontier and mounting tensions with Great Britain, a monumental acquisition was quietly reshaping the nation's destiny. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson orchestrated the Louisiana Purchase, a deal that doubled the size of the United States overnight. For a sum of $15 million, the U.S. acquired an immense swath of land from France, stretching from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains and from the Gulf of Mexico to the Canadian border. Gap 2S. The Louisiana Purchase had profound implications for the young nation. It provided vast new territories for settlement and exploration, fueling the American spirit of expansion and manifest destiny. The acquisition also secured American control over the critical port of New Orleans, ensuring unimpeded access to the Mississippi River and bolstering the nation's economic prospects. Gap 2S. However, the purchase was not without its challenges and controversies. The vast, uncharted territory presented logistical and political dilemmas, as American leaders grappled with questions of governance, land distribution, and the status of Native American inhabitants. The Lewis and Clark expedition, commissioned by Jefferson, embarked on a perilous journey to map and explore the new lands, forging paths that would later be followed by waves of settlers. Gap 2S. The Louisiana Purchase also intensified debates over slavery, as the nation grappled with whether new territories would be free or slaveholding. This question would sow seeds of division that would ultimately culminate in the Civil War. Gap 2S. Despite these complexities, the Louisiana Purchase remains a landmark in American history, a bold stroke that cemented Thomas Jefferson's legacy and set the stage for the nation's westward expansion. It was a testament to the ambition and vision that defined the early republic, even as it foreshadowed the turbulent times that lay ahead. Gap 2S. As the United States stood on the brink of war with Great Britain, the vast new lands acquired through the Louisiana Purchase beckoned with promise and peril, shaping the nation's trajectory in ways both immediate and enduring. Gap 3S. Amidst the backdrop of the monumental Louisiana Purchase, President Thomas Jefferson commissioned an ambitious expedition to explore the vast, uncharted territories acquired from France. This journey, known as the Lewis and Clark expedition, would become one of the most legendary explorations in American history. Gap 2S. In 1804, Meriwether Lewis and William Clark set out on a perilous journey with the Corps of Discovery, a group of skilled men tasked with mapping the new lands, establishing trade with Native American tribes, and documenting the flora and fauna of the expansive region. Their mission was not only to chart the unknown, but also to find a practical route to the Pacific Ocean. Gap 2S. The expedition faced numerous challenges, from treacherous river crossings and harsh weather conditions, to encounters with diverse Native American tribes. Yet, it was through these interactions that Lewis and Clark forged crucial alliances and gained invaluable knowledge about the land and its inhabitants. The assistance of Sacagawea, a Shoshone woman who served as their guide and translator, proved instrumental in navigating the complex terrain and fostering goodwill with indigenous peoples. Gap 2S. The journey of Lewis and Clark lasted over 2 years, stretching across thousands of miles from St. Louis to the Pacific coast. Their detailed journals and maps provided a wealth of information that would pave the way for future explorers and settlers. They documented over 300 new species of plants and animals, and their observations laid the groundwork for America's scientific understanding of the West. Gap 2S. The significance of the Lewis and Clark expedition extended beyond its immediate discoveries. It ignited the nation's imagination and fueled the spirit of westward expansion, embodying the ideals of exploration and manifest destiny that would define the American ethos. The expedition also highlighted the complexities of American-Indian relations, foreshadowing the challenges that would arise as settlers moved westward. Gap 2S. As the United States grappled with the implications of the Louisiana Purchase and the looming conflict with Great Britain, the legacy of the Lewis and Clark expedition stood as a testament to human curiosity, resilience, and the enduring quest to explore the unknown. It was a journey that not only expanded the geographical boundaries of the nation, but also the horizons of its people, setting the stage for the next chapter in America's unfolding story. Gap 3S. As the United States continued to navigate the turbulent waters of international politics and westward expansion, President Thomas Jefferson faced a new and formidable challenge: the escalating conflict between Britain and France. Both European powers sought to restrict American trade with the other, leading to repeated violations of U.S. neutrality. In response, Jefferson decided to take a drastic measure. Gap 2S. In December 1807, Congress passed the Embargo Act, a sweeping piece of legislation that aimed to pressure Britain and France by prohibiting American ships from trading with foreign ports. Jefferson hoped that this economic weapon would force the warring nations to respect American neutrality and maritime rights without resorting to war. Gap 2S. However, the Embargo Act had unintended and profound consequences on the American economy. The cessation of foreign trade hit the nation's merchants, shipbuilders, and port cities hard. Exports plummeted, leading to widespread unemployment and financial distress. The agricultural sector suffered as surplus crops rotted without markets, and the overall economic stagnation sparked discontent among citizens. Gap 2S. The embargo also gave rise to smuggling as desperate merchants sought to bypass the restrictions and maintain their livelihoods. Coastal towns experienced a surge in illicit trade, and enforcement of the embargo became increasingly difficult and unpopular. The economic downturn strained Jefferson's popularity and led to growing opposition from both Federalists and Democratic Republicans who saw the policy as an overreach of executive power. Gap 2S. Recognizing the mounting discontent and the failure of the embargo to achieve its intended diplomatic goals, Congress repealed the Embargo Act in March 1809, shortly before Jefferson left office. It was replaced with the Non-Intercourse Act, which allowed trade with nations other than Britain and France, but the damage to the economy and Jefferson's legacy had already been done. Gap 2S. The Embargo Act of 1807 serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities and risks of using economic sanctions as a tool of foreign policy. While it aimed to assert American sovereignty and protect national interests, it instead revealed the vulnerabilities of a young nation's economy and the unintended consequences of sweeping legislative actions. Gap 2S. This episode in American history underscores the challenges that leaders face in balancing domestic well-being with international diplomacy, a balancing act that continues to resonate through the corridors of power to this day. Gap 2S. As the United States emerged from the economic turmoil of the Embargo Act, the nation found itself on the brink of another conflict. Tensions with Britain continued to escalate, fueled by ongoing impressment of American sailors, restrictions on U.S. trade, and British support for Native American resistance against American expansion. These issues, combined with a desire to assert national honor and sovereignty, led President James Madison to ask Congress for a declaration of war. On June 18, 1812, the United States officially entered what would become known as the War of 1812. Gap 2S. The war was marked by a series of fierce battles on land and sea. American forces faced early setbacks, including the burning of Washington, D.C. by British troops in 1814. However, significant victories, such as the defense of Fort McHenry, which inspired Francis Scott Key to write The Star-Spangled Banner, and the decisive Battle of New Orleans led by General Andrew Jackson, bolstered American morale and national pride. Gap 2S. The war also had profound effects on Native American tribes. Many tribes had allied with the British in hopes of curbing American expansion, but the defeat of Tecumseh's Confederacy and subsequent battles resulted in significant loss of land and power for Native Americans. Gap 2S. The Treaty of Ghent, signed on December 24, 1814, effectively ended the war. While the treaty largely restored pre-war boundaries and did not address the issues of impressment or neutral trading rights, it marked the beginning of a lasting peace between the United States and Britain. The war also had lasting domestic impacts, fostering a sense of national unity and identity, and paving the way for the era of good feelings under President James Monroe. Gap 2S. The War of 1812 demonstrated the resilience and determination of the young American nation. It highlighted the complexities of international diplomacy, the sacrifices of those who fought, and the enduring quest for national sovereignty. Gap 2S. As the United States continued to grow and evolve, the lessons learned from this conflict would shape its future policies and its place on the world stage. Gap 2S. The War of 1812 remains a pivotal chapter in American history, reminding us of the trials and triumphs that have defined the nation's journey. It is a testament to the enduring spirit of a country striving to forge its own path, even in the face of formidable challenges. Gap 2S. As we reflect on this era, we are reminded of the enduring importance of resilience, unity, and the pursuit of peace in shaping the destiny of a nation. Our Gap 2S. As the dust settled from the War of 1812, the United States entered a period known as the Era of Good Feelings. This era, marked by a sense of national unity and political harmony, began with the presidency of James Monroe in 1817. Monroe's leadership saw the decline of the Federalist Party, leaving the Democratic-Republican Party as the dominant political force. This period was characterized by a spirit of optimism and a focus on internal improvements and westward expansion. Gap 2S. One of the key aspects of Monroe's presidency was his commitment to strengthening the nation's infrastructure and economy. The construction of roads, canals, and other public works projects facilitated trade and communication, helping to bind the young nation together. Additionally, the establishment of the Second Bank of the United States aimed to stabilize the economy and provide a uniform currency, further promoting economic growth. Gap 2S. However, the era of good feelings was not without its challenges. Regional tensions and economic disparities persisted, and debates over issues such as slavery and states' rights continued to simmer beneath the surface. Despite these underlying tensions, the period was marked by a general sense of national purpose and progress. Gap 2S. One of the most significant legacies of Monroe's presidency was the Monroe Doctrine, articulated in 1823. Faced with growing European interest in the newly independent nations of Latin America, Monroe issued a bold declaration asserting that the Western Hemisphere was no longer open to European colonization. The Monroe Doctrine proclaimed that any attempt by European powers to interfere in the affairs of the Americas would be viewed as an act of aggression against the United States. Gap 2S. The Monroe Doctrine had profound implications for American foreign policy. It established the United States as a protector of the Western Hemisphere, and laid the groundwork for future American intervention in regional affairs. While the doctrine was initially met with skepticism by European powers, it would become a cornerstone of U.S. policy in the Americas, and a symbol of the nation's growing influence on the world stage. Gap 2S. The era of good feelings and the Monroe Doctrine represent a pivotal moment in American history. This period of relative peace and prosperity allowed the United States to focus on its internal development and assert its presence on the international stage. It was a time of hope and ambition, as the young nation sought to define its identity and place in the world. Gap 2S. As we look back on this era, we are reminded of the power of unity and vision in shaping the destiny of a nation. The lessons learned during the era of good feelings and the principles embodied in the Monroe Doctrine continue to resonate, reminding us of the enduring importance of resilience, sovereignty, and the pursuit of progress. Gap 2S. In the grand tapestry of American history, the era of good feelings and the Monroe Doctrine stand as testaments to the nation's enduring spirit and its unwavering commitment to forging its own path. Gap 2S. As we reflect on this chapter, we are inspired to carry forward the legacy of unity and determination that has defined America's journey, and to continue striving for a future marked by peace, prosperity, and progress.